Happy Friday, everyone. That was a beautiful film. I love when I have the opportunity to learn and experience some of the emotions behind the people who really bring music and stories to life. So there's really something special about showing those films and screening the films here in Roots Theater. I take it really personally to bring people home. And so I feel like that's what we did tonight. So thank you guys for bringing her home. I'm going to introduce the panelists for you. First, we have Robin Williams. Robin Williams Sr. is the son of gospel legend Marion Williams and a versatile musician, songwriter, and producer. Starting as a drummer at 13, he has worked with renowned choirs like the Philadelphia Mass Choir, Chester Mass Choir, and the Johnny Thompson Singers, and performed alongside his mother. Currently, Robin is the music director of Poetic Blues, a sister story, and leads two R&B soul bands, Poetic Soul and RKW2 Project. His musicianship has taken him across the globe with performances in Indonesia, Italy, Switzerland, and more. As CEO of Renage Movie Productions, he produced the legendary Marion Williams documentary, which was featured at Cannes through Pavilion Afrique and is now streaming on Amazon Prime, Tubi, and Pluto TV. Please welcome Robin Williams.
Thank you very much.
And he doesn't have his long socks on. I caught that from the... That's great, by the way. And your whole leather suit. I don't know where the leather suit is, but we'd love to see that. Dr. Karen Moore, born and raised in Philadelphia, PA, Karen Moore developed a love for the arts at an early age. As a classically trained pianist, she used her gift to play for choirs and churches in the Philadelphia area. During her early adult years, Karen developed a love for poetry and musical theater. This ultimately led to combining her music, poetry, and songwriting into theatrical productions performing on stages in Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware, and Atlanta. Karen has written and produced for the theater such as works as Poetic Blues, A Sister Story, Song of Solomon, Poetry in Motion, and Packing Up the Marion Williams Story. Please welcome Dr. Karen Moore with the sparkle shoes. I hope y'all got that. Pan in on those shoes. Milik Kashad. Milik Kashad is an award-winning multidisciplinary artist, educator, and music historian with a passion for preserving and celebrating the rich tapestry of Black music, arts, and culture. As the creator of the Black Music Archive, Milik has built a platform that dives deep into the technical and emotional aspects of singing and musical history. His YouTube channel not only breaks down complex vocal techniques, but also connects the dots between genres, eras, and cultural movements while giving legendary artists a platform to share their stories. A trained performer with roots in gospel and an expansive knowledge of house, R&B, classical, and other music traditions, Milik is known for his insightful video essays and documentaries that bring music theory to life. With a mission to make music education accessible, Milik continues to inspire and inform both musicians and music lovers alike, combining a deep respect for tradition with an eye towards innovation. Please welcome Milik. And our moderator for tonight, he is no stranger to the Roots stage, so I'm excited to welcome him back. Tim Dillinger. Tim Dillinger is an award-winning music historian with a focus on the worlds of gospel, soul, contemporary Christian, and women's music. A researcher, essayist, and curator, Dillinger is the founder of God's Music is My Life, a music preservation project encompassing a weekly newsletter housing both long-form features and hosted news aggregation, published video interviews, and digitized archival footage, and a monthly radio show dedicated to traditional gospel music. He has produced multi-disc box sets and written liner notes for collections by artists including Cissy Houston and the Sweet Inspirations, Lolita Holloway, Shirley Murdoch, the Mighty Clouds of Joy, the Staple Singers, Dionne Warwick, among others, and is currently completing a book about the New York Community Choir. Please welcome Tim Dillinger.
Thank y'all for joining us tonight. I'm excited to have this conversation. I'm going to edge up a little bit so I can see everybody.
Yes, I'm going to do the same.
So we just finished watching the legendary Marion Williams, a film that Robin Williams and Dr. Karen Moore produced and conceived. And I want to start with the two of you because the film is really amazing for a few reasons. And the one is, for me, you paint a complete picture of Marion Williams. And it's rare gospel artists because a lot of the time we only hear about the music and we don't hear about their lives. And so I really want to commend the two of you for painting such a broad portrait of who this important woman was and is, continues to live on as you all tell her story. Over the last decade, we've watched like an incredible, I don't want to say re-scripting, but a re-evaluation of that era of gospel music. So we've seen a lot of attention pointed at Sister Rosetta Tharpe, where for years we saw Mahalia as kind of the central figure of the golden era. Now there's a lot of attention on Sister Rosetta as a rock and roll innovator. They call her the godmother. And it's timely that your film would come out to talk about Marion, because she and Sister Rosetta really are the grounding of what rock and roll would do. One of the challenges in telling that story is finding the space. So what was your motivation in conceiving this film, and how long have you been working on this?
Well, I would say it took about maybe from birth to, I say about 7 years, because what we started out with the doing tribute concert of my mother, and in Philadelphia, and then from there we did another one, and it just hit me that at the time, like you said, Mahalia Jackson, she was getting all the notoriety of everything, and I said, as the only child, I said, hey, I want everybody to know who my mother was. Not just an artist, not just who she influenced, but also a mother, a church mother in the Church of God in Christ, a minister in the Church of God in Christ. A person
Also ahead of her time, and
yes,
in just doing that, yes.
Yeah, and a person that would, just down to earth, but at the same time could be a diva and knew how to be a diva and everything. So with all that, so I just wanted the world to know, and I never knew how far this documentary would take me. So to come all the way now, it's amazing. And me and my wife, we decided, we talked about, and help put together a lot of things. So,
Karen, can you talk a little bit about your role in putting this film together? And really, I feel like you very much nursemaided this project through. So can you talk a little bit about the labor that was involved in that?
Yes, it was quite a labor of love. It really was. And I think that the important thing was that the commitment to it, even though there are always challenges when it comes to filmmaking. And so I think one of the things is being able to work through the challenges and being committed to the project, being committed to getting her story out for those who don't know, and for those even who did know who she was, to remember all that she contributed to gospel music, to rock and roll and blues and all of that. So I think it was important for the younger generation to not just know who she is, but to remind the older generation also about her contributions to all genres of music.
What were some of the challenges? Because I know just in even preparing for this panel, like it's a challenge to even find images, to find videos of Marion during that era. So can you talk a little bit about that piece of working on the film, you and the director's role in finding those things?
Right. There were a lot of challenges with finding video, and even when we found video, getting the rights to use it. Because even though it was his mother, when you start talking about intellectual property and copyright and all of that, that whoever filmed it, it's their intellectual property. So you've got to get the permission. Like we couldn't even really get the Kennedy Center honor to be able to have that as part of the film. Really? We could not get that video. It was going to be a very labor intensive. It was going to be very labor intensive. And then some of the other videos that are out there that are all over YouTube, but in order to put them in a film, you've got to be able to get the rights, and it's very expensive. Yeah. So you've got to really have a major budget to be able to do film, and we can see why it costs so much money. Why films cost so much money is because you've got to be able to have the funds to be able to get the rights to the footage that you want to be able to use.
Well, and I know I work a lot in reissuing albums, right. And so there's just a huge expense. People don't realize that a lot of times when, we say, well, it's so easy to get this stuff out, a lot of times they have to go back and pull the film, they have to restore the film, and then, so there's a cost that's involved in that, and usually the person licensing the film, which would be you, are bearing the costs of restoring those things.
Definitely.
And so, it's a whole thing. And when people say it wasn't in the film, it wasn't in the film, there are usually reasons.
Yes,
why,
exactly.
why it wasn't in the film.
Exactly. I could tell you, we was working with the bare minimum trying to get this film,
And we had an amazing director who was willing to work with us to be able to. Amber was amazing with being able to work with us and being able to be able to fill in those spaces where we weren't able to have film or even music, because like you said, there's copyrights with the music, and the record label owns this, and then whoever wrote it owns that, and you've got to go through all of that, even though she recorded it. But still, to be able to put it in the film, there's a lot of licensing that has to take place.
Well, the central piece of the film, though, that I think is so amazing is the interview with Philadelphia radio legend Linwood Heath. Can you talk a little? Did you know that tape existed before you started on the film?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He gave it to me. God rest his soul. He just passed last year.
Yes.
He had given. Of course, I've seen him at programs and everything, and we were talking. And when I did my first tribute concert, he was the. He was the moderator, or no? He was talked, and we had words and everything. And from there, he said, I do have an interview of your mother and everything. Wow. And I said, yeah. Well, I was thinking about doing something. He said, well, you can have it. He said, I don't want anything for it. So that was a blessing by itself. And from that, what we realized once we was doing it, we wasn't even thinking about using it until once we started finding out we didn't have a lot of footage. And then I looked at some of the stuff I had and told the director about that. And she said, well, why don't we just let her tell the story, since it's all he's interviewing and everything. And that's what we did. We used that interview.
It's brilliant.
Oh,
it's brilliant. And if anybody that is watching or listening and you are researching gospel music, look up Linwood Heath on YouTube, because he was an incredible preserver of the stories of so many of the unsung legends. Some of the lesser known people. I mean, he got incredible, extensive interviews with them. So he's
Yeah,
definitely an archive. He has an archive that people should be utilizing.
Yeah.
It's right there on YouTube. He put hundreds of interviews up. I'm going to get to Milik because we're going to talk about the music in a second. But you mentioned in the film that Sister Rosetta Tharpe was that Mahalia was your godmother, and you told me privately that Sister Rosetta lived nearby and you knew her.
Yeah,
Can you talk about those two women?
Yeah, well, first Mahalia Jackson, like I said in the film, was my godmother. I only remember her calling and after the ceremony of christening and everything. I don't know how I remember her voice or her calling, but my mother told me the whole what went on, and she couldn't make it, so she had I called her Grandma Waddy. Henrietta Waddy was part of the Stars of Faith, so she stood in the gap for her. That's where our relationship, as much as I knew of her. Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Mommy, and some of the other singers from the Stars of Faith had gotten, because of them doing Black Nativity, met this developer overseas, and they were looking for houses and everything, and he told them, that he had this development, and it just so happened that a lot of them was living in that area, and Rosetta Tharpe was like maybe walking distance, probably about 4 blocks away from us. So my mother would go, we would go over there and they talk and everything. I didn't know at the time that my mother had traveled with Rosetta Tharpe for a little while. For whatever reason, it didn't last long, but they were still friends. I even remember when her leg was, amputated too and everything. So I do remember her more than I do remember Mahalia Jackson, but yeah, they was just right around the corner, just walking distance.
Well, and I think it's important to position, Philadelphia, because not only did you have the Ward Singers, not only did you have Rosetta, you had the Davis sisters,
yes,
and Isaac Douglas, and all of these incredible groups that were Raymond, the Newberry Singers, and Raymond, all these groups coming together at one time, all so distinct and so unique in what they were bringing to the table. That's why it's the golden era.
Right.
Well, and I want to talk about the music. I think I did that right. I'm never good at this. I always fail, but it's okay. There we go. No? There we go. So that's the Ward Singers.
Right.
With the gold record for Surely God is Able. And in my mind, I want to talk about Marion's music. In my mind, there's 3 chapters to her career. There's the Ward Singers, which is like 47 or so to 58. Then the Stars of Faith from 58 to 78. The Stars of Faith, and then her solo era, from 58 to 78. And then during that time, she recorded for every major label. She recorded for Atlantic Records, Sony, Epic. She recorded for VJ. Every major label, she was, right there, taking gospel music into the mainstream. And then from 78 to 94, to the end of her life, she really shifted and she became an independent artist and recorded with Anthony Halbert's Spiritfield Records. So what I wanted to do in this conversation is look at those 3 phases. And Milik is here. Milik is an incredible music historian, and he's been working on a video essay about Marion's virtuosity and musical significance. And he draws some really interesting parallels between Marion as a gospel singer and opera singers. And so I want to play a snippet from what he's working on. If I can. There we go. We're going to play this.
As for the cast of Black Nativity, they would be invited to tour the production in Italy, where Marion would eventually become a superstar. Italy is considered the birthplace of opera and formalized vocal technique. And from this, other styles of opera and vocal techniques would emerge. A distinction about the Italian school of singing is its emphasis on the use of chest voice. Under the belief that chest development lay the foundation for voice building. In the 1820s, composers such as Bellini are credited for popularizing a declamatory style of singing, which was defined as a style more directly bound up with dramatic expression than the ancient concept of singing being understood as the beauty of sound and technical mastery. But by the end of the 1800s, the Italian method of singing would soon be referred to by some as the screaming Italian school. But screaming and hollering have also been used to describe the sound of singers of gospel music, Marion in particular.
Maybe a size 9.
A music critic said this about Marion: "She speaks in a whisper. It's hard to believe that this barely audible person is the same saved, sanctified, and Holy Ghost-filled woman whose growling, hollering, hands-on-the-hips vocal style directly influenced both Little Richard and the Isley Brothers." But this is the same woman whose rhythmic control, perfect time, and remarkable use of portamento, falsetto, and ornamentation rivals the techniques of the most renowned classical singers.
Thank God! It is
I know a lot of people say that gospel has the tendency to sound screamy, which I think is interesting because I've also heard that notion said about women of color who come from the church but make their names in classical music. When I was reading some reviews about Leona or Leontine and Greece, something critics of their era would criticize them about was their high notes, so like how they did the B flat, B, C's, how they did those notes. But what they would say was that the way the attack and the release of the notes was very aggressive or could come across as screamy. And those are the same terms that have been applied to singers of gospel music. What is considered the appropriate way to sing those, those top notes?
I think what most people are thinking of is having a lighter approach to a high note. Because what I'm hearing in what Marion sings and when I hear Leontine and Leona say, they attack the note dead on. It's just like, it's right on. And so a lot of times they're wanting, in schools and stuff, and the way I was taught was to sing where you are lifting the soft palate and giving that space and then landing on the note. But the thing is, is that Leontine was so good that she could still attack it dead on and still have all these overtones going over it. So to sit up there and say it was screamy, I think they've lost their minds. It's some of the most glorious singing you would ever heard, her and Leona. But I think it's because of their church upbringing, that's how you approach the high notes, that probably washed into the way they sang classical music and how they approached it. But it's also what made them some of the most exciting singers of their generation.
Williams's popularity in Europe, especially Italy, may be attributed to her sound, which reflected a traditional style of singing that was presented in a new and innovative way. Taking the sound of the chest voice very high, popular 19th century Italian soprano style. Attacking the highest notes straight on. Was in the tradition of the dramatic style and flair that Italian audiences loved.
So, yeah.
Very good,
Isn't that
Malik.
great? So, I want to talk a little bit about what drew you to opera and to study opera, and how did you make this connection from opera to Marion?
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. What drew me to opera? Honestly, the theatrics, the drama. So even in the longer piece, I make a mention that people often see opera is like a genre of singing or a style of singing, when actually opera itself is a form of theater that's under classical music. And then one of the things Marion is known for, or the ward singers or whomever, is their theatrical approach to telling the gospel. And then I make that connection to Marion pioneering, the gospel theater. Like there would be no Tyler Perry, no Angela Barrow Dunlap without Marion and Black Nativity. So really just the drama of opera, and I'm a very quiet person by nature. And so like to be able to just make those kinds of sounds, is something that, or just express yourself that loudly, that boldly, is a skill I always wish I had. And so that's how I made those connections, or what attracted me to both opera and gospel particularly.
Well, I was gonna play Packing Up, but there's so much for the sake of time, because there's so much golden era in your clip, 50s and 60s Marion. When we think about that operatic influence that she brought to gospel, then making its way into rock and roll through her, it's like a really interesting interdisciplinary profusion almost of sounds and styles. So can you talk a little bit about Marion's technique during the 50s and 60s, particularly that Stars of Faith, Ward Singers era?
So yeah, like we mentioned, the use of the chest voice. So, gospel singers, or Mahalia Jackson's really known for just the ability to just belt very high. Is what gospel is known for. And like a lot of people don't necessarily like the operatic sound in gospel music. They consider that chest sound more, they consider it real singing. But really one of the main differences between classical singing and just contemporary singing is the use of space. So if you look at Marion's body, like in the 60s or whatever, she's built like an opera singer as well. She has a very wide back. She's, sort of everything's just wide, and, yeah, she's wide, and so like the body is a resonator, so that all that space in the chest, that space to put the voice, the space in the back, and so opera singers often talk about like how you use the whole body because they often sing without a mic. And somebody wrote in an article that I mentioned about Marion not needing a mic, but you use the whole body to fill an entire space without a microphone. And so that use of space is also what the difference is, and when she sounds more gospel as opposed to more operatic. So like I'm trying to think of an example. So like I Know I've Been Changed. So if you say, that's more classical. I'm nervous, but it's more that's more classical. But if you spread the mouth outward, so I know I've been changed. It's that difference between that more space is the difference between bouncing between the classical sound and the gospel sound. So if you watch her do her woo, you'll see her mouth is more vertical and everything is, flat to produce that sound with like all the overtones and the sound that we consider operatic.
Well, it was interesting too because watching the clip on this huge screen, I noticed something I did not notice when I watched on my computer, was that their tongues, Marion and was that Leona in the other clip? Their tongues were doing the same thing.
Yes, they vibrate. So like when you flatten the tongue, it creates more space, so that's more space in the mouth to resonate. And so sometimes if you ever watch her sing, you'll notice the tongue goes like, yeah, so like that's because the sound waves, the vibrations, all of that. So yeah, that means she was using all of that space. And then I know you mentioned like further up, so because the body is so important, one of the things I noticed like as she gets older, I would say around the late 70s, early 80s, you use the whole body to sing, especially in the way that she sang or Mahalia sang. Because Mahalia would need like up to 3 days after a concert to recover, because that's how much of the body they use. And that's another reason why opera singers perform every 3 to 4 days, because it's so physical. But you'll notice that like when Marion is older, the posture is a little bit more slumped over. Like if you watch her younger, when she goes for the high note, she has to straighten up because you use the whole body to support that sound. But at the end of her life or when she's sick, everything's like this. So there's no top because the body's too weak to support. And I know you have a clip about that, and those are things you'll be able to observe.
Yes. Well, before we move into the 70s, I want to ask Robin, I know as you were very small, your mother was leaving the Ward Singers. Right. Do you have memories of course I know you Henrietta and the other girls, of course you remember. Did you meet Mother Ward and Clara?
Yes. Again, young. I remember, again, vaguely. I know more Willa than I know Clara.
Okay.
And Willa, she
was
lived
Clara's
longer,
sister.
Right? Her sister,
yes.
Right. And mommy would take her to some of the concerts and sing background and everything. So that's one thing. Mommy never forgot her, and try to help other singers and everything to, make some change and stuff like that. Clara, we must have went to California, I think when she was sick or something, and Mommy went to see her. That's all I can remember. Miss Ward, not too much.
Okay.
Yeah. Miss Ward.
Well, the one thing that's really present in that era is, the Wards were consummate showmen, and between the fashion and the presentation, but your mother had a very different showmanship than the Wards. I mean, that's why I think she really stood out. Aside from the vocals, she was such a presence on the stage in a very different kind of way. A few weeks ago, there was a clip that got uploaded to YouTube from Ellis Hazlitt's incredible show from the early 70s called Soul. And this clip, to me, this may be my favorite Marion Williams clip ever. It's strong. And you get in this, and we're going to watch this because I feel like of anything I've seen of Marion, this in like 4 minutes exemplifies the tour de force that you really got when she performed. And so you get the rhythmic talent she had for improvisation, but you also get this incredible showmanship. So this is called Prayer Changes Things. This is from 1970. There we go. Oh. You got it. That's it. I'm guessing it's going to play. We're missing the video.
I've heard
Got the audio.
the story of David. Ooh.
So should we? Let's go back to that. There we go. There we go. Oh wait, why does it keep moving? Okay, got it. All right.
We're gonna have we'll come back and do it again. This time next year. We'll come back.
I will ask about the Soul Show because you would have been. Was this around the age you started playing with your mom?
I started playing full time in my 20s, so that was 70.
That was 70.
Yeah. So I was 13.
Okay.
Right. Telling my age, right?
Well, this is. I think the
I
Soul.
wasn't playing drums then. I was still playing bongos.
You were playing bongos.
Yeah, I didn't start really traveling with her with drums until I got like in my first gig with her was on not Soundstage in New York. It was somewhere else, and I can't remember. I think it was in the studio,
Okay.
Tony and them. And then once we started I did that. Then I started traveling with her. More.
What made you pick up bongos first? I'm gonna ask that question while we're getting the video together.
Okay, I got a story. To tell you. Starting out in church, we used to have back then. I don't know if anyway. They had this big giant tambourine. It was big, almost like the size of this table, and they would play it, but it was heavy. And a lot of times we would, so nobody was really playing, so I would put it between my legs and play it like a bongo. So as time went on, my mother saw that I was playing bongos, and she bought me some. And they had another guy playing drums, so I started, playing bongos at the church. And then she took me my first gig with her with bongos and everything, where at Carnegie Hall.
Carnegie Hall. Wow.
Yeah, that was crazy with Louis Armstrong. That's when I met Nina Simone.
Wow.
When she came up on the piano and stuff and played and all that, and because she just loved my mother and everything. And after mommy finished singing and everything, she just came up and was inspired and everything. They talked. So, and then from there, I went from my next bongo gig was recording on the Atlanta Records, the BMO album.
Standing here. Prayer Changes.
We should. Oh gosh, I can't remember.
Blessed Assurance.
Blessed Assurance.
Yes.
I was so disappointed because I thought I was going to play drums on that. But anyway, they had, of course, a professional drummer. But I played bongos on that. And then after that, studio, and then mommy's got more comfortable. Because at the time, even traveling overseas, she was only taking piano player and her. She may take background singers.
Okay.
But at the time, she wasn't taking a full organ and keyboards and stuff like that.
Okay.
And drums. She would get drums. Somebody played drums over there and stuff. I guess at that time, the way her contract was, structured or whatever. And then finally, as she got older, that's when she started adding my cousin and everything to lead backgrounds and drums, organ, and piano and everything.
Wow.
So,
how are we doing with the video? We're good? All right, we're going to roll this. This is Prayer Changes Things. And then we'll talk more about this prayer.
I've heard the story of David. Ooh, Lord, I've heard Brother Daniel in the lion's den. Let me tell you, I heard of Job and all of his affliction. How they all kept the faith to the end. And when all hope had seemed to fail, that's when our God's power prevailed. Hey, I really know, prayer changes things. Yeah, let me tell you, I know, prayer changes things. Let me tell you, I know that prayer will change everything. I've been way out on the stormy, raging seas. I've been hungry, I've been sick, filled with misery. And along came my Jesus. I know He lifted me. I know prayer changes things. Let me tell you, I've traveled through sorrow's valley. Many times my poor heart was made to bleed by my so-called friends, whom I thought was with me. Through disappointments, I was knocked down to my knees. But I rose up with faith and grace. I found nobody to take God's place. I know, yeah, yeah. Prayer changes will change everything. I'm a witness, I know that prayer changes things. I've been way out, haven't been out on the stormy, raging sea. Change everything. I know prayer will change everything. I've been way out on the stormy, raging sea. I've been hungry, sick, filled with misery. Prayer changes things. Woo-hoo! You know, that prayer changes things. I'm a witness, y'all. I know prayer changes things. I
legendary Marion Williams right there.
That's vintage.
That's
Yeah, that's vintage. Yeah, it's definitely vintage.
Well, that era is really important to talk about because at that point she was signed to Atlantic Records. She was operating almost entirely outside of the gospel music industry. She wasn't having gospel hits; she was having mainstream hits and traveling the world.
Yes.
In theaters, arenas, doing stage plays, doing Broadway.
Folk
She was,
music.
yeah,
Yeah.
and recording Bob Dylan songs
Yes.
and being produced by Roberta Flack and Joel Dorn and having a whole different experience than 99% of gospel artists were having.
Oh, great. It was, if I can say, between the ward singers, really after the ward singers, the gospel world, she made a shift, and she probably didn't realize it because after the ward singers, everybody knew her because of the Surely God is Able and Packing Up, and that was her main songs with them. But Black Nativity really took them into a different place now as a Broadway singer and everything, and a showstopper. You know what I'm saying? So that took her to a place where being in the so-called gospel circuit, like James Cleveland and everything, and I'm not going to get up, but and all those, and then start singing folk songs. She cracked me up one time. She didn't know what she was singing. They had her singing Hare Krishna.
Yes,
So
yes.
we told her what it was, and she was like, "Oh my God!" But she sang it, and so but it took her to another level.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of people overseas. That's why a lot of overseas people loved it. Yeah.
Well, she said this, and I think this is a really important thing to highlight. She said, people don't realize that when I was with the Ward Singers, we sang many folk numbers, and Bob Dylan is such a great songwriter. If a song has a message and if I like the lyrics, I'll do it. I'm looking for songs that will be more commercial, but I will not erase my gospel image.
Well, so how do you know that? Okay, you got one on me.
But I think that's really visionary because that was at a time when the sacred and the secular were kept very separate, and she really figured out a way to be in the secular world, but to still be gospel. And
It's like the nightclubs and everything in
yes,
New York. And she would not. They could still serve drinks until it was time for her to go on, and they had to shut it down.
okay,
That was her main thing, and she had people come to Christ.
yes,
And I'm a witness. We was, if I can say it right quick, we were in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and there was 3 women. We were at a club. I can't remember what it was. And they gave their life to Christ. And from there, they formed a church in Boston and everything. They became, the person became a pastor and everything from out of that. From mommy doing, just holding on to what she believed in and everything. So, yeah.
wow. I'm trying to be mindful of time.
I'm sorry.
No, not you, me. I want to make sure we hit this last era because I think it's really important. So in 78, Marion actually has a Nashville connection because in 78 she recorded This Too Shall Pass,
Right.
which was through Nashville's Nashboro Records. It was produced by our mutual friend, Anthony Halvett.
Our friend.
Yes. And Anthony, as we heard in the film, Anthony was really a champion.
Yeah.
And is a champion to this day for her work. But he started Spirit Feel Records in the early 80s and started recording her himself. And it took her in a different direction because today we would say she was recording Americana.
Yes.
We didn't have those words back then, and black music was not included when we talked about Americana in those days. But today she would have a very fruitful career in the Americana world.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk a little bit, and we're going to show the clip from Fried Green Tomatoes, the outtake from Fried Green Tomatoes, and I want to just try to very swiftly talk about this era, but can you talk about the relationship between her and Anthony Halbert and the ways that they worked together? Because they did know the same lexicon of songs, because Tony can pull an old song out on you and admit it. And so it seemed like they had some simpatico kind of thing going on with each other.
Yeah, they some people thought they were going together. You couldn't see it. But anyway, but he loved my mother, and to this day, he if it wasn't for him, he took her to another level. Again, as I was talking about the separation from just traditional gospel to Americana type, stuff. Her doing colleges, folk festivals, things like that. Him and Judith Ligner was her manager. They took her to another place in music as a gospel singer, and which was the best thing that ever happened to her, because from there, she got the MacArthur Foundation Genius Award. She got the Kennedy Center Honor Award. She's got the Philadelphia Alliance Walk of Fame Award. And so, and Kennedy Center Honor alone, she was the first black female gospel singer.
First gospel singer, period.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think it was. I didn't really think about that at the time. But you're right. Yeah, she was the first.
Just had the second this past year with Amy Grant. The second ever.
But didn't Mavis?
No. Have they done Mavis? I don't think they've done Mavis.
I don't know if they've
yet.
done Mavis. I thought Mavis got in.
I think it's just Marion and Amy Grant at this point.
That's crazy. Right. And so today you can see that on there.
Yes.
That bomb, that that award. I mean, that just took her to. She was so happy. But her main thing was Philadelphia. She wanted her city to really recognize her.
Yes.
And they did. Yeah.
Well, let's watch this last clip, and we'll talk really briefly about this last era of her career. This is an outtake from Fried Green Tomatoes, which she was featured in the soundtrack, but they actually filmed a scene with her for the movie. So we're going to look at that, and then we'll talk a little bit about it.
Just listen to that rain. Raining in the north, raining in the south, raining in the east, raining in the west. Woo-hoo. Tell me, didn't it rain, children? Rain, oh my Lord, didn't it? You know it did. I said, oh my good Lord, didn't it rain? Hey, it rained 40 days and 40 nights without stopping. Noah got word when the rain kept dropping. He sent out a raven, sent out a dove. The water good God came down from above. They tell me, my God, when it shouted the rain, the women and the children began to scream. They knocked on the window and they battered at the door, crying out, woo, woo, take on more. Noah said, no, my friend. God got to kill, can't let you in. Woo, woo, listen to the rain. Just listen to the rain. Listen to the rain. Just listen to the rain. Oh, listen. Listen to the rain. Oh, listen. Listen to the rain. Yeah, listen. Listen to the rain. Oh, listen. Listen to the rain. Yeah, listen. Next time. Listen to the rain now. And then trip, chop, trip, chop, trip, chop, trip, chop, trip, chop.
So, Milik, talk a little bit about...
If you're turning 65 or beyond...
What was that? Oh, that was a YouTube ad. Talk a little bit about this last era, how her voice changed and how she worked with those changes in her voice.
The first thing upon first listen, there's a clip of her singing that from like 64. And the key is like a major second higher. So here the key is lower. Yeah, it's lower. And like I mentioned, the posture, so you'll notice the shoulders are a little bit more slumped over. But what stands out to me and what you could compare to an opera singer to is particularly with like sopranos, when the top doesn't work anymore, they move into a thing called character parts, which are more, it's still singing, but it's more character based or performance based. And so at the end of the day, no matter what the voice could or couldn't do, she was a performer. And so that's what you see there, because the technique doesn't really change. She sounds a little, I wouldn't necessarily say older, she sounds like a reflection of her health. Because especially in like women who have high voices, when they're in poor health, it shows up in their voices first, especially in the part that's typically the best, which is the high note. So you don't really hear her doing any of that there. But I mean, yeah, it's just more leaning into the performance aspect of her singing as opposed to, the sailing and soaring that she was known for.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yes.
Go ahead,
I'm laughing
Robin.
because every time I see that clip, we were supposed to, the group, we was all ready to go. They had given us plane tickets. They asked us what kind of drum set I wanted. That was Eddie Brown on the keyboards. And so it was supposed to be organ, piano, background singers. And about the second day we was getting ready to leave, they called and said they had to cut budget. And that's what, from that. Wow. So we couldn't go for that one.
Wow.
We was there. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Karen, can you talk about how the film has been received and what's next in terms of utilizing the film and Marion's story to continue to spread awareness? I know you're working on a stage play. As we speak, can you talk a little bit about those things?
The film is in distribution, and we're looking forward to being able to again do screenings and panels and to continue to talk about it and to continue to share her legacy, because one of the things I think is so important is that we don't lose the legacy of our ancestors that paved the way for so many of us. And it's really great as far as Marion is concerned, because her grandchildren are all, one of our grandsons is here, a phenomenal drummer and producer. Her other grandson is a producer, and her daughter sings. So the legacy is continuing, and it's so important to be able to not forget her, though even as her grandchildren continue to do music and progress and doing phenomenal things, that we don't forget her and the contribution that she made to so many genres of music. So we're looking forward to continue to doing screenings. And we also have a multimedia production that we've done that combines the film as well as live music and someone actually kind of portraying her and singing. So it's a multimedia production. And so we're looking forward to just continuing to share her work and to continue to keep her legacy alive, that it continues, that people all over the world continue to remember her and the amazing, amazing voice that she was and how she contributed to all genres of music.
Robin, I'm going to leave the last words to you. Do you have anything else you want to say about your mom?
No, my goal and my dream was always just to let people know who she was and show my side of as her son. And by doing this, just keep building, and to have people aware and to know, she was right up there with Aretha, Mahalia Jackson, Rosetta Thorpe, so yeah, again, as the only child, I just say, I'm keep pushing, you know what I'm saying? So, and thank you to you. Thank you to the museum. My heart, my wife said I could cry, even to Milik, because a dream has come true. And when I saw the statue, and not statue, but the thing there with the gown and everything, it just brought back memories that her memory will always be there. So.
Well, thank you again for making the journey to Nashville and for sharing the film with us and with the world. Milik, we're looking forward to what you're working on about Marion. And thank you to Noel and the entire team here at the National Museum of African American Music. We're grateful for the opportunity to talk about this great woman and tell this story. So thank you. And thank you all for coming out.